Hey everybody, this is Phil Evans with Timber&Rose Realty Group, and today we're going to answer the question, are we in a bubble? We get this question almost every day. It feels like people say, look, house prices are going crazy. In a lot of different statistics, we're seeing prices of 17 or 18% growth this last year or two. And so we kind of wanted to answer that question for you today is the market going to drop? Our price is going to go for a correction, and basically, is it going to be a better time to buy a house next year, perhaps, or maybe 2 or 3 years from now? So we're going to go over some of these statistics that we have gotten from our local economists, and that are going to kind of steer us in the direction of what they're seeing. So the first thing we're going to look at is home price growth. So we know, as you can see down here in 2021, we had 12.1% as the growth that was forecasted. A lot of these numbers are showing that that's actually much more. But either way, double-digit growth is a great thing if you're a home owner. But if you're trying to get into a home for the first time, it may not be, especially if you also have to compete against multiple offers. So what we're seeing here is that these prices are due to an increased demand in low mortgage rates. Basically, they're still at 3% right now as today in 2021. And we do expect them to go up. The Federal Reserve has talked about increasing interest rates up to about 4% by the end of 2021. We are now in September, end of September 2021. And so we are expecting those rates to go up any day now. They're only going to go up like 1/4%, maybe an eighth of a percent, just real little, but they are going to continue to go up. There is a rule, if you're a home buyer, that you should be aware of. It's called the 1 in 10 rule. And basically what that means is that for every 1% that interest rates rise, so if they go from 3 to 4% this next year, then you're going to lose 10% of your buying power. So if you're buying a home for, say, $400,000, and a year from now you're buying a house at 4% interest rather than 3% today, then you're probably going to lose about $40,000 buying power, which means you're going to be able to afford a house for about $360 rather than $400. Like you would be today. So interest rates increasing is a big deal, and that's why a lot of people are trying to get into the housing market right now while interest rates are still as low as they have ever been historically. Also, we're seeing that here, at least in Portland, Oregon, and that includes Portland Metro, so Washington County, Multnomah County, Clackamas County. There's a lot of disposable income. People working for Nike and Intel and other major corporations. And overall, the people that have been saving and have a solid income month to month are able to afford homes still. And so we are seeing a lot of people in the market because of that. So incomes are still nice and strong. And then we have the shortage of housing. They just cannot build houses fast enough. They're trying to build a lot of townhouses and condos in the area, but a lot of people want single family. And so whereas there's enough demand for those townhouse and condo units, there just overall is just not enough homes on the market. One of the major reasons the economists said this was for was because we have the low interest rates. The baby boomer generation, which traditionally was thought to be downsizing and selling to the millennials, which is the next big generation of home buyers, decided not to sell. The last several years, as interest rates have stayed historically low, they decided to just refinance their home and stay put. They didn't need to move. They liked having a bigger house for less cost. So because of that, and because the millennial market is turning into the 30s and getting so big as the number of buyers increases every month, we are just seeing more buyers per number of houses offered on the market, which means our inventory is low. So those are the three major factors. Interestingly enough, though, we are going to see a price growth forecast of about 5.3% for 2022. One of the reasons for this is because COVID, the first part of 2020, from January, February, March, April, really put the brakes on a lot of buyers. And buyers still are a little concerned about like the Delta variant, how that's going to affect the market, things like that. But overall, we saw a huge push of buyers saying, I need to get into the market right now. I do not want to be stuck in my apartment anymore. in this smallest space. And so we had a huge push in growth for 2022, or for 2021, excuse me. So for 2022, we do see less growth. Interestingly, I've seen these numbers be anywhere from 7, 8, 9%. I have them here on this slide from our local economist at 5.3%. For Portland Metro, that's pretty average over the last 20 years plus. It's about a 5% average growth. So the question is, are we in a bubble? Things will probably slow down this next year as far as the percentage growth of homes, but it's still going to grow. So if you wait, you're still going to be paying at least probably 5%, if not more, for that house. Plus, interest rates are going up, so you're also going to lose 10% potentially of your buying power, which means you're not going to be able to afford the same house 6 months to a year from now as you are today. So that's kind of what's going on here. This slide talks more about supply and demand, and we're talking about measuring demand based off of how many people are applying for mortgages. And so we're seeing that soften a little bit, which is why we get to that 5.3 number versus the 12% number over this next year. This also talks about the largest group of millennials. They're hitting their 30s. So they're still going to be buying. There's still going to be a seller's market, which means that there are more buyers than there are people to sell their home. Basically means that the sellers get to choose who they sell their home to because they get multiple offers. This is a quick slide I want to go over for housing data. You can see this is the economic and housing market outlook for 2022 and the rest of 2021 here in quarters 3 and 4. And you can see that there is going to be pretty much the same number of total home sales. We saw actually more total home sales back in 2020. Like we talked about that big push, right? Right here, quarter 2, we saw a slowdown because of COVID. And then all of a sudden, people went gangbusters and said, hey, I got to get into a house. That lasted into 2021. And then we saw things kind of dip down throughout the year. Remember that 2022 is going to have a slower increase in home values, but it's not going to have necessarily less competition. And because interest rates are going up, the homes are still going to be more expensive to own and purchase. And so that's kind of, this talks about total origination, that's loan originations and how they expect that to be decreasing. But again, I don't see that this is going to be decreasing demand necessarily and cost of the house. It's just decreasing because of interest rates increasing, how many people are going to be in the market. There's still so many more buyers than there are homes for sale. Imagine rather than having to compete against a dozen other offers, you still are going to have to compete against probably 4 or 5 offers. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And this slide is a little blurry. I had to blow it up. But this is total inventory. Again, this talks about how inventory has decreased. That's number of homes in the market since 2015. It's just gotten worse and worse and worse. What does that mean? It means even if you're competing against 4 or 5 other buyers rather than a dozen because interest rates went up, home prices are still going to stay strong. They're still going to be more than list price. And that could get potentially worse as this number goes up. It always goes up a little bit and then it goes back down. A little bit, goes back down. Right now we're seeing this go up and we're probably going to see it go back down. So that's kind of what that number is showing you. And that's David Sachs for another lecture. But that's kind of what I wanted to show you guys. And then if you guys ever want to get your up-to-date market information, you can always go to timber&rose.com and just click right here on market update. And then you can always contact us. And we are more than happy to answer any questions you have about whether right now is the right time to buy or sell. Thanks, guys.